Okay, we're live with today's show, the Great Data Product Debate. Continued on from a great data product debate we had at the World Data Conference, where we were lucky to have Paul Rankin as a guest. So without further ado, Paul, how are you doing?
Great, Chris. Happy to be here. Happy to be carrying on the discussion from the Winter Data Conference. It was a great gig. Yeah, thanks very much for inviting me.
It's the people, and I'm not just saying this. It's the people that come to it that make it what it is. In fact, everyone did my marketing for me this year because I only did one post since the event about it. But yeah, it's great to see everyone's experiences there and what they liked about it. And I think one of the things that seemed to go down very well was our spicy debates that we had. And for the audience out there, in fact, before I go straight into it, Paul, do you want to give yourself a bit of an intro? Obviously, we've spoken so many times. I'll just go straight into it.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. So, 25 years probably now, really been in the front end of the industry. Started off at IBM, went to smaller consultancies in these early days. We focused on the traditional BI tools such as Cognos, Business Objects, Oracle, and then slowly followed the journey of the kind of the data product, the data discovery tools such as Tableau, Click, and all that, taking a lot of that market share, targeting the business directly, and then after that moved here to Switzerland worked for a little bit for Zurich Insurance with a lot of IBM tooling there. Moved to Accenture, led up the cloud analytics chapter for Accenture. Then went to Roche, and I suppose that's how we started to know each other at Roche, and then led the data mesh, data platform journey initially for Roche Diagnostics and moving into pharma as well. And then went freelance a little more than a year ago, and now been pretty much helping companies with that transition from, I suppose, the data strategy from the monolith to the distributed ownership to the how to really democratize the data. So that's been an interesting journey.
Yeah, and I think some similarities with the technology and the time scales there with myself. And this is probably why we never short of things to talk about, really, because we
exactly.
Back in the day, and we're going back to the same things we talked about before, and we're trying to put a positive spin on things, and we are going the right direction. I think there's been I think we're going faster in the right direction than we have before. I think we've always been maybe going the right way, but sometimes we're like maybe the big data bubble. We took a bit of a detour for a little while, yeah. So we've got some shout outs to some people that have joined. So Val, Ryan, Dan, Ryan doing the Cognos Pros chat in Transformer Cubes. Yeah.
Loved it.
We've had some great conversations with Ryan about that. I still think there's nothing as good as that Transformer these days. But anyway, we're not here to talk about reminisce about the technology of the past. I think a good place to start was, I suppose, the observation that was made at the Winter Data Conference when I asked one question to the panel, and that was what the definition of a data product. And of the 5 data panelists that were there, and yourself included, all of them were not new to this world, and we're a big focus on what data products are. So, and there was it took a while to get to a consensus, and maybe a consensus is a loose word, but for the audience maybe to pick up where we left. If I was to ask you the definition of a data product, what would your definition of it be?
I mean, going before I tell you my definition,
you have to say depends before it.
Anyway. Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. You ask, 10 different consultants or 100 different consultants, and they'll all tell you something absolutely, that's different. And going back to where we were 4 years ago, I think that I said this at the conference that, we worked with Shamak and our team directly, at Roche. And what we thought from ThoughtWorks, what the definition of a data product was then, and this was pre her book and really before she tested any of our theory. Even ThoughtWorks were still trying to work out what a data product was, and is it really a product, and is it more of a product thinking to data and this and that, and that has changed over 4 years. What we thought, or what I thought was a data product then, absolutely, I kind of think differently about it now. So, and I think everybody, changes their opinion or their mind, of the definition over the 5 or so years that we've really been. I mean, everybody's talking about it now, and to a point where, I work with organizations. They're like, "Oh, we need to do data products," and I'm like, okay, why do you need to do data products? And then they're telling me, "Oh, we need to do this. But for me, a lot of the actually what I consider the true definition, and that is being able to tie value to your data, business value, right? And that is, I would say, is my definition, as simple as it gets. Yeah. And yes, I have a technical definition of what a data product is. I have a logical definition, but at the end of the day, why are we doing this, right? Why is everybody so keen to do data products? Yeah. And let me tell you, some people are doing, or many people are doing data products, but not delivering any more value than they did, with databases or dashboards, right? But a lot of them are missing absolutely what I see as the key, is the most important part of the definition, is being able to tie, business initiatives, business value to your data.
And business value has been a with everything, it's something I've been championing for a little while, and I was working with Matt on this for a bit, where we were trying to work out a definition that we could all agree on, and it took a while, and the working definition until it's been challenged and refined maybe over time is business value is a positive and evidenceable effect on your company's performance. So it doesn't always have to be about profit; it's about meeting your objectives. And I suppose the objectives ultimately should lead to profit, but it may not be direct. And it's that whole indirect
You may be a non-profit organization, that's still delivering value from data products.
Exactly. That's a good view of that as well. Actually, is to put the non-profit. Well, even though these charities, let's not go into we're going to go into, as it Major Tom's as a different topic conversation. Back on point. I mean, John just put a good point on there. It's two ends of the conversation. It's that business end and technical end, and I think that comes down to one of the challenges that we've always had in our world is talking the right language to the right people at the right time. When we talk about a data product, give that depends thing. Data product is different to who everyone. What they'll define it as and what they'll group it as will be different to who you're talking to. But absolutely. I think the ultimate thing is it's still whatever they're talking about, whether it's a technical component or if it's that business component, it ultimately should be driving some value. So I think that is a common factor between them. Yeah.
But like you say, a lot of organizations have missed that completely. And when I'm speaking to more of the IT organizations, the technical, I mean, they start off by talking technologies for a start, and then they draw it maybe even higher to the asset model. The data product asset model, should it have input ports, output ports? Should it have assets and data sets and this and that? So then they're trying to discover that kind of things, but a lot of the times when you're speaking to IT, they're never considering the business value and the business domains. All they're trying to do is migrate or refactor their data warehouses or their data lakes into data products. And a lot of our organizations I speak to, the main bone of contention for them is more ownership, not actually the data product build and everything else. What they're keen to do is shift the ownership to the business instead of owning all these data warehouses or data sets or dashboards. And that's the attraction for IT. what I'm seeing in a lot of organizations is shifting that accountability more towards the business side, which, again, it's part of the, whether you're doing data mesh or whether you're doing distributed ownership or domain ownership or whatever, it's part of that. And as you know, in Jamak's book of data mesh, data product alone is not going to solve all your problems, you have to bring in these other principles into the mix to really make a huge change to the organization.
Yeah, I'm making some notes here around an AI product, a data product, just a product. What moves apart from a marketing and maybe trying to get valuation difference in what you want to call your product? What really makes each of those different? And I think it was one of the speakers, Craig. I can't remember his name now. Greg Cugiano. Sorry, I forgot his name. He was presenting about is it about an product manager, an AI product manager. Does the product still exist if AI wasn't part of it? If it does, it's not an AI product. So I think the same thing does. I don't know if that quite works, but that whole data product, if data isn't part, if data wasn't part of it, is it still a product? No, it's not. So then what just makes a SaaS product? if it's not a portal that you can't go into, then it's not a SaaS product, I suppose. But it's the lines are blurred a little bit between the different. So
I suppose then you go back to, if I understand your question, what is the data product asset model? Because part of that asset model, if it has a data set that contains multiple assets that contain multiple physical, tables or views, does that have to exist to call it a data product? Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, I would say there has to be some kind of output, some kind of something you can consume. Now, whether it's a model that is, that is providing an output at runtime, I still believe, I've still seen data products in organizations that are calling themselves products, but there's not actually any saved data. There's essentially a model generating an output at runtime, right? Now, to me, I still think, yes, absolutely. I think this, can be, it's generating data, valuable data. It's providing, hopefully, value towards a problem for the business. Whether it's because it's not actually physically storing data right before you consume it. I don't see this. I think people get too caught up in, is a dashboard really a data product? Is it, or is it not? Is it part? Well, it depends. I mean, we've all been through that discussion. And I think people get too caught up in these, definitions. I mean, exactly.
Which is highlighted by the debate. And I tell you what, it's all highlighted, but it's all the great comments and great people that are on there as well. So shout out to Carl Graham, Aaron as well. And I'm just going to pick up on Aaron's comment because this was something that I started at the beginning of this, and it was like about the whole SKU thing coming from the retail world, supermarkets. I knew that a product had a SKU, it had characters, you sold it. I think that SKU concept still exists in our data world, but that's a data asset you're selling. So it's a bundled, curated piece of data that you have on there in your books as something you've sold. So but the example there was a hammer as a product of the SKU, but itself is not useful until it's so. I think it's that combination of what tools are. So a combination of, for example, using that analogy, Aaron, is a hammer, a screwdriver, some pliers, a file, and everything is your ability to deliver a particular, make that chest of drawers or something with the wood. But on its own. So if you use that in our data world, that's just a capability or a feature within what you're putting as part of your product. So if your deliverable was a collection of objects, that some of it was the data, some of it's the algorithm that's been trained on other data, some of it's the DDL that's structuring that data, some of it's then the ingest scripts to bring this data in. That collectively solves a problem, which is a customer lifecycle value decisioning. Okay, that is I suppose you could say that's an AI product because it's got some learning product. I think I probably thought that, but yeah, it's a collection of objects that solve a problem. Yeah. So there's some great discussions going. I don't know whether to pick up. Let's just carry on with our flow of what we had, and we'll see what the comments bring back.
I think if you look at going back on that, I mean, if you look up the definition of a product, I suppose it would be something like I don't know. I'm sure it would have selling in it. It's something you sold probably in the dictionary, and something that was manufactured or grown or whatever to sell. I mean, at a high level, I imagine that is what a definition is of a product. Now, if there is no data product definition in the Oxford Cambridge dictionary or whatever, I'm sure, right? Maybe I'm wrong. Actually, maybe you should try and see if there is now. But
we'll get the Oxford dictionary out a little later, or the Collins dictionary, and what they are, and maybe take it from different points in time to see, see what's changed over that period. I think the common theme from some of these comments here and where we are, and we've talked about this before, and I'll just call out Dan Tooney on this one, is it's a product thinking, it's a product mentality. If we can remove what is actually this product, but if we're delivering in that with that product mentality, with a product manager approach of actually delivering this thing, is what they're delivering, as long as they're actually packaging this up and managing to the stakeholders that this is the end result that's delivering your business value. How we've carved it up, it's irrelevant to some degree,
Yeah, and I mean, if you ask a lot of data warehouse, admins or practitioners in the past, they would say that they were delivering, their data warehouse or their data, marts of part of the data warehouse. They were thinking as a product. Yeah, I mean, you ask a lot of them, and absolutely, I've worked with a lot of organizations in the past that have delivered very good, the data warehouse, data marts, star schemas. And they consider, they treated them as a product, treated them with releases, with features, with communications, to, all that kind of stuff. So, I don't think it's a new thing for the IT organization, to treat data as, with product thinking in mind. We've just got a fancy term, and everybody's kind of getting too excited about the terms rather than actually, we've been doing a lot of this stuff, Actually, is it delivering value? Some of it's not, delivering value. Some of it is. But, I think that we need to really tie everything back to what difference are we making, especially for the business, because and I only saw this when I started going freelance. A lot of our IT organizations have lost the value that they bring to the organization, right? And because of many reasons, and because of obviously the transition to cloud, that the reliance is not so much on data centers for companies anymore. They think vendors can come in and help business do things a lot quicker, a lot faster, and sometimes better than their own IT organizations. So by a lot of these things we're talking about, data products, data mesh, data fabric, data as a product, this and that, it comes from IT trying to get the value and the skin back in the game for their company. Yeah. And let's face it, I mean, all these things were invented or pushed and marketed by IT, vendors and IT consultants at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all guilty a little bit, aren't we? I suppose.
I think it's good because it gives us a framework, and that's absolutely good. And that's what a lot of organizations need, as a framework to work with, But I see a lot of them just trying to have a badge. We do data products,
Yeah.
and really without understanding, well, do we provide more value now that we're doing data products than when we were just doing, databases? And
how have we reduced that friction in delivery? How are we getting better quality output, quicker, faster? Meeting the customer requirements. Again, making some notes as you were talking there, and something that popped in. Talk about data marts, and back in the day, as we talked about, I'll use an example of BMW. We were there before. We had there was a data mart for the resale. There was a data mart for distribution. There was a data mart for the manufacturer supply chain. All had reusable, each of them was a different product, but all of them, shared dimensions that were built up over time. And if that was a product thinking, product way of delivering it. But I suppose the other thing that didn't exist then is, everything was waterfall. You planned something out, and it was, so you knew what you're building because you'd already pre-planned, and it was, I'm not saying it was the right, it served the purpose back then, and Agile did bring a lot, but it took away a lot. And I think this product, so we went to Agile, I think, a little bit. Went a bit Agile crazy, I think, for an era where we lost that association to the value because we didn't really know what was being built all the time. That's been defined the next sprint. So, it was diluted, that connection to the deliverables and the ROI that would have been defined as part of getting that budget, because they wouldn't have given you the money unless you'd done the analysis. Whereas that got a bit, it was a different world for a period. And I think this product mentality is trying to bring back some of that control of what we're doing. Some still maybe delivered in an agile way, but a little bit more aligned to a collection of objects that are delivering something for the business, and now if we need to call it a data product, well, then it's rather than it being called a data project, because projects always fail, but data products, maybe they won't fail as much.
I see what you mean there. Let me give you an example of a company I'm working with just now that are kind of stuck halfway between, they've decided, yes, data products is for them. They see the value of it. But all their funding is still done, like you say, through a project charter, right? And through a waterfall. You've got the planning stage, the build stage, and the delivery stage. And absolutely, this is the worst thing ever, because you've got the funding and your project management team assessing what you're doing still in the old waterfall way with charter and goals and quarterly goals, monthly goals, and then a timeline and a delivery date. But you've got the data product teams building data products in this agile way, right? And this is a complete mess. It really is. I mean, I said either you need to change a lot more than just how you're delivering data. And this is the problem. This is the problem with data mesh, right? The fundamental problem with data mesh, that it absolutely touches every single part of the organization, right? And for most organizations, this is far too difficult to do. That you need to change your funding model, you need to change your operating model, you need to change your team setup, not organizational structure, but you need to change the way that they're brought together. And how do you bring someone in from the visualization team, from the data team, from the project management team to work together, this cross-functional team, if your whole organization is not set up for this? And we had a talk with some of the guys from ThoughtWorks Germany about this, I think a few years ago now, and they are saying, actually, we've kind of learned that trying to get large, or maybe smaller organizations, medium size is not so difficult, but trying to get large organizations to adopt the whole data mesh paradigm, and really actually be successful, it's just far too difficult. Really. And I'm seeing that pretty much everywhere. Oh, we started doing the data mesh, but And you go, sorry.
You just triggered a thought. There's been this whole, it's still in this, I think I'm too off piece here, but the whole shift left for the data quality aspects, the movement of that. And I think Joe did a post about, shifting right close. Anyway, I was thinking about this last night, and with my good old days of the old stick shift gearbox, You know, it was shift left, shift right. It's you're up, down. You got to be close to business. You got to be down with the technology. Then you got to go up next gear to get in close to business. Then you're down with technology. Then you have to drop down a gear if you're going hitting that corner and they're racing, dropping down one, doubling the clutch. You know, anyone that hasn't driven a manual won't understand any of this. But the whole thing is you were set up to go the right direction at the right time, depending on your. The ideal solution would be set up to be able to react quick at the right point. And I don't think, having just focused on one area, say, we're shifting left, because you're going to slow everything down. Because if you shift left and push that, nothing's going to come through because you fix all these things, or the other hand, you shift too far left, you're in reverse, you've missed first gear. So I think it's having agility. And I always like to use this term friction. So friction is the time, complexity, and effort for a particular activity. And if you know that, going down from, I'm using it, 3 to 2, or what you have to do, you need to get the revs at this point for you to make sure it's a nice, clean gear change. That's what you need to be focusing on, so you can react quickly. And data mesh it's going to take you to every part of the organization. It's working out. Starting small to go and prove that with some core, and then building that out until everyone's on the same race course of you going the same direction. Continuing that analogy, but it's not available in manual or electric vehicle analogies. That one I'm afraid.
I mean, it should be easy. It sounds great. It sounds easy on paper, and I think that is why a lot of people have bought into it and tried it. But what I'm saying is it's essentially, introduced and run by IT organizations, and it really is heavily focused on IT and vendors promising them that they can help them, provide, data mesh. And clearly, what we've learned everybody's learned over that, 3-4 year period is actually the most difficult part is the whole organizational shift, towards, as you say, towards more agile approach to data, towards more ownership, towards more, distribution, towards more, distributed governance and everything. And the hardest bit is people, as you know. Trying to get, key business leaders bought into this. A lot of them, and rightly so, see it as an overhead. It's an additional overhead for them. What value is it? What values are going to bring them?
And they've heard it all before. Unfortunately, we live by our past successes and our past failures, and unfortunately, we're tarnished by the failures more than our successes. And they've overshadowed them. Anyone that was pushed to go. Any long-term CEO that's been there for a while, he said, "Hold on, you told me the big data world was going to sell me this one." They go, "Hold on, you told me this modern data stack when I went to Redshift was going to sell." "Hold on, you said when I moved to Snowflake that was going to sell my problem." "Oh, we said that we didn't do Snowflake great, so we got to data model. Oh, we're putting a vault thing in. Oh, that failed. Oh, we're now going for a data mesh approach. Now this has come about. We need to be doing that, even though that's the same as what we're doing before, but now it's a new label to go and hide the other failures." So I could go on, but I've run out of breath. But that's what we have to deal with. And no matter how many new concepts we come up, which probably leads me on to my next question, actually, is the biggest, back to that definition of business value, it's that evidenceable. That key word is evidenceable. How do we solve that evidenceable challenge?
And
for data products. So how do we solve the problem of, yes, we're doing a data product, but as part of our data product, we're going to show and evidence the value it provided, and that should be part of our.
So let me explain how we did it. We did it at Roche for a little bit, and then some other clients I'm working with, we did it. It all goes back to your organization's key initiatives. There's no point in starting, at the low level. You need to really start at the high level here, top down. And, usually if, that can be split by domains, but, with some organizations that are smaller that I'm working with, basically they have a key initiatives program. They understand what is going to make them money in the next, 5 years, essentially. right? I mean, most organizations have that key, key initiatives that really understand their organization. Let's take, for example, an energy trading company or something. They understand that maybe batteries is the new hydro or the new solar. Yeah. So they understand in the next 5 years they're going to focus their efforts on trying to make money from batteries. I don't know. Yeah, it could be. So then you need to understand what data they need to essentially support that and make that happen. And there's no point in just rocking up after those 5 years and say, okay, now it's time for the data. What do we need? I mean, you need to be part of that process. And as soon as they have decided that this is what's going to make our organization more profit, the data team, or the CTO or whatever needs to be in these discussions. Yeah, and I think that is sometimes I see what's missing is they go full steam ahead. Yep, and the operational part, and then they say, okay, yeah, well, at the last minute we need some data. You have to to either analyze if we've made it or if we've made profit or whatever, and then we say, well, if you'd been in the mix at the start, we could have really provided you something. So data is always treated as the bottleneck, because or an afterthought, usually because they've not been involved until the last time. So, that needs to be brought forward, that, data is treated as clearly as more or equally as important as the operational stuff. And then, you've got to understand what data you need to support these key initiatives, and then, how best to deliver. And that's what we did at Roche and with some organizations I'm working with just now, is understand what those key initiatives are, work it down to what data is needed, and then, well, we split them into products, because they were going with a data product approach. Understand, your data product canvas, that really was required to support these key initiatives. So that's kind of how we did it. I think it's always harder if you start, bottom up, and if you say, okay, we're going to build a data product for daily sales or something, and then somebody asks, well, what value are you going to put on this data product? And then, it's really difficult for somebody in finance to say, okay, well, this is the value that I'm providing you, based on one data product. But starting from the top down, exactly what they've estimated the profit's going to be, and you can work out essentially the data that can support that.
So I think there's things that it's easy to identify, which for example, improvements. So if especially with digital things like contacts and things like that, if you've got this scenario where how long it takes for onboarding via a ticket process, and the accuracy of that, and with your new drop, your new algorithm, train on new data, you go, look, we're onboarding more people, easy money tick on that one. Where it becomes more of a challenge is where you start having things that are frameworks or foundational stuff that you need to build. Right? You need a good data ops framework. You need to have some FinOps foundation in place. You need a robust RBAC and ABAC controls. You're gonna need some technical capital to do this stuff. You might have some bells and whistles with some data quality checks automated as well. But at the beginning, to do that, it's finding someone that's prepared to sponsor you to go and do that, and you can't demonstrate the value from all those things straight away. So I think that's the worst case. I think knowing what you need to build and building iteratively, but using someone to build that. I think getting some of that credibility, then you can feed that and do some of those things behind the scenes that maybe no one will actually go and put the budget in for, but you need it for the scaling. So it's hard.
I mean, I see that as part of your transformation, and I mean, essentially that should be a decision made at the same time as you're deciding to how you're going to deliver data. And if the organizations say, okay, we're going to try and deliver data differently, it's going to be more distributed, we're going to go data products, et cetera, and that should be part of, well, what do we need to move this direction? And obviously, a data platform is a key enabler for that. Yeah.
But what I've seen is sometimes you've got many stakeholders. No one wants to put their foot in and go, yeah, I'll cover the cost of that one. It's going, I want to reuse something that someone else has gone and done. If you don't have that visionary or vision that yes, we need to invest X to go and build these things on top of, and then that is either a sunk cost that we can then recuperate back from other people that come onto it. I can see that sometimes that's why people just go their own route. You get these silos because I'll do that on my own.
No, I mean, this is not good. I mean, I usually tell the leaders who are looking for this transformation or supporting, they need to follow the money, right? Essentially, and it ties back to these key initiatives for the organization. They want to see this as the key initiative, so they're willing to spend money on doing it. And if you can essentially help them, then you will get the funding for it, whether it's data products, whether it's a new data platform, whether it's an organizational change, but you have to follow the money. There's no point in just saying, we're going to refactor our data warehouse to a data platform and data products. Nobody's going to pay for that.
You're right. And I think the challenge I've seen and with the approach of saying, if you've got a CDO with a seat at the table that has visibility across all these things coming along, and they're able to feed that through into, you're talking about, they need one of them as well. All right, that's something that we'll build as a feature that's shared. You've got this. When do you need that by? All right, okay. If we move this first, that enables you to be able to do this at that point. And I don't think that we've had that CDO having the autonomy to be able to look at this stuff that's coming along and actually shape this up. I think there's too much. The marketing team are going down their way. The finance thing's got their things. They've got their own budget. They don't want to involve another team because we've slowed them down in the past. So, which probably leads on to the next question is, CDOs we've talked before have had mixed successes. A CPO. So now we're talking about products all the time. So, Chief Product Officer, does he solve that problem? Does he instill that vision of that data? Does he sit alongside the CDO? Does he replace the CDO? And I'm not looking. You start with it depends. I know because I don't know the answer to this either.
I mean, I've sat in a lot of round tables and panel discussions about CDOs. I think, personally, I think the job is a thankless job of a CDO. I don't think that they have the autonomy, like you mentioned. I don't think they have the funding to really make any difference. I don't think they have a top seat at the table. I think most cases they sit within IT, and in some cases they sit between business and IT. I just don't think, I've never really seen an organization with a CDO office or a CDO that has been really successful. Yeah. And I think that, for me, it needs to be like you say, rebranded, reimagined, reprioritized, a team that involves business and IT. Yep. Some kind of cross team that involves leaders from IT and business making key decisions on, what are the business priorities. And I think that
Department of Efficiency or something like that, was it called?
It could be Dodge or something like that. But no, jokes aside, I really think that this needs to be given a lot more priority and a lot more autonomy on decision making. If everybody really thinks data, is the whatever. I mean, it's not the new oil, but it really is. I mean, everybody knows that data is probably one of the most important factors to increase profitability, to increase faster decision making, competitive advantage, etc. But I still don't see organizations, really setting themselves up to succeed here.
I agree, and I think we've got a bit of we got a small violin out for the data world. I think we've got a bit of a bad steer or a bit of a bad deal, really, with the CDO was like a token role that was trying to solve the problem. I think I've joked that a CEO's on the golf course and he speaks to CFO, goes, we're going to monetize our data. I've solved the problem. He goes, how have you solved it? I've hired a CDO. It's his problem now. And again, the CFO
exactly.
That's another 200 grand a year plus. Where am I getting this $500 million from? We go, I'll just take you from the CIO and CTO's budget. They'll be fine. They will not be fine. They're never going to give that away. So
you're right. It's crazy. And I worked with an organization last year, right? That the CDO was under the CIO, right? There was no CIO at the time when the new CDO joined. He was all in on distributed ownership and moving away from, and then a new CIO joins and said, "Oh no, this is all nonsense. We're going back to centralization," and because he's not got that autonomy to make the strategic decisions. Basically, it changes every time a new CIO comes in. Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that we talk about. Maybe a technology sort of view, but the org structure needs to be re-reviewed. And I think the comment there from Barbara, I think the CD will have no choice to be validated, elevated. But I think as part of that process, what the CEO needs to do in an organization is, right, let's go back to basics. Okay, what comes under technology? What it comes under information? Do the two things overlap now? Is there a place for both of them? If so, where does the CDO go into it? Where's my chief product? I spoke about this about data teams. If you dumb it down to the activities that you need to run the business or run your pipeline, there's not that many skills that are needed. You just need let's go back to what skills over roles. Let's go look what skills are needed, and then let's go and allocate those skills or those activities to your new defined C-suite. We may have to rebrand it with a 2 at the end because it's a new org structure.
But this is going back to the org structure should not define your architecture or your success. This is I think exactly what cross-functional teams talks about. And Manuel Paez and his book of team topologies talks about it. Jamak talked about it in data mesh, and really I see it actually it is a hindrance that people always try to work with the org structure they're given and don't feel that they have the power to create cross-functional teams outside that org structure. And I do see that as a problem. That you're right. I mean, what it boils down to in terms of data products and data mesh is teams and ownership at the end of the day. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other things, but if you have a team, a cross-functional team delivering, having the skills that they need to deliver, and you have clear ownership, obviously you need all the other bells and whistles. But if you have that solid, you're onto a winner, I would say.
Yeah, I love Omar's comment there. A CDAO under a short-sighted legacy CO is death to data and value creation. Yeah, 100%. If you can get the most cleverest, best experienced person in the world, that if they're given to someone that is not aligned with their thinking or not,
exactly.
It's the most expensive failed hire you've ever had. Exactly. But this is there's been so many comments, I haven't been able to keep up with it. I've got some thoughts, and maybe I'll bring up the end of how we deal with these comments. But
just a shout out to my friend Omar, if he's on there, his wife does the best biryani you've ever tasted. So in case you get invited round to Omar's house,
a reason to get back to Switzerland at some stage. Hopefully we'll be doing the winter stage conference, maybe Austria again, so maybe Omar can get down next time. But we're going to see both of them. So we're trying to tackle org structures as well. We can any CEOs listening, maybe some good advice here, but it's probably not our audience we've got. So there's some things we're going to have to deal with. Which maybe let's pick up Sonny's question here as well. So shout out to Sonny. So he'd love to hear 3 keys to the success of a new CDO. Well, so do you want to have a stab at this one first?
I mean, if I look at my time at Roche, actually Roche never had a CDO, right? All the time I was there. I don't know if that's changed now, but they decided that a CDO was actually not needed, rightly or wrongly. And I think that, for me, the a lot of the success that I see in organizations for good CTOs is essentially the whole networking. If they can bring, all parts of the organization together, and align them on one direction and one strategy, for me, that is by far the most important job of a CTO. Nothing technical, nothing, down on the way that they're delivering agile data products, wherever. Really, rightly or wrongly, and maybe some people, don't all agree. I mean, that's, as people do not all agree on direction, strategy, and what they want to deliver. But for me, I see that as the hardest part, and would be the most successful part, of a CDO, is to bring all leaders together, on aligning the direction that they're going with data initiatives. Yeah. And that's, for me, I don't need three. I've seen enough to say that is absolutely the most important thing.
So I think I'll try and. So it depends on what will be the first one, but I think the three key to success is deliver something sooner than they expected, and that is isolated, that's quick to deliver. So that, I hate to use the term, but that low hanging fruit, because unless you get something in quickly, it's going to be a lot harder to make decisions later on. So the thing is, find your friendly there that you can do something tactical that helps. It's a small ticket to get your big ticket. So I think that's the one thing key to. I think the other one is work out your landscape of who you're working with, because if you come in as a CDO, rather than work out your technical landscape first, I think work out the organization landscape, because until you work out who are the lovers of technology, emotional attachment to a particular area, really got the keys to the car or got the ear to the CEO, that information is so much more valuable to find out before you start looking at the technology, because with that information you can see what a common challenge is for everyone, or what you actually easily get agreed with something. Then do a focused technology deep dive into an area that you can add some value, and then hope you last 18 months, and then keep a new job after step 3. Look for your new job just in case.
I've never seen a CDO last more than 18 months, that's for sure.
Well, hopefully that will change. So I think we may have touched on this a little bit, but so data as an asset was coined for a while, and I think there's Doug Laney's book, which was I can't remember the name of it now, but it was all about data as an asset. The theory of the book was giving explanations of reason why we can't call it an asset. There was some good reason for that, because it can't be seen as an asset on your books for you're selling, and also unless it was technology you could move from one tech to another, then they were tied into technologies. It wasn't seen as an asset. I've always coined the term is like data starts as a liability before it even get anywhere, because initially, infonomics. Thank you, Rob. Initially it costs you storage, it costs you risk of compliance issue. You've got to collect it and compute. So the first point is, data is a liability, and those old days of like just hoarding it all just because you might need it later. I think we've all seen where that went. So I don't like to use the term now.
I think we're back to coining phrases like products and assets, and I just looked it up right as you said it. What does an asset mean? It's very broad and high level. It's just something of value, either a thing or a person. And that's exactly clearly why people started calling data as an asset, because it provided value to the organization. So when I worked for Accenture, this is when we first started. It must have been about 8 years, 7, 8 years ago. And then we started, changing our approach to pushing data as an asset projects, with some big organizations. And this is when we started, really pushing this. You need to start treating data as an asset. And now we're treating data as a product. To me, it's actually, what we were doing then is not much different from what we're doing now.
Yeah, we're running out of words for these things, aren't we? Though, so
yeah.
why the modern data stack hasn't been renamed, because there was no one liked postmodern, and yeah. So you're right. We're and I think it's the storytelling aspect, isn't it? Unfortunately, when we've used a story for so long with certain words in it, it loses its credibility as a story, and we need to come up with another story. And
absolutely.
we are running out of these things.
But this will not change. Essentially, a lot of these things, like I said at the beginning, are born out of IT vendors and strategists and consultants, who are looking for the next new shiny, thing to add value, and I think it'll be another few years until data products is replaced by something else, and I think it will still be providing the same principles and the same characteristics, as assets, as products, as fair.
Moaning about how we changed the name of it again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, people say, "Oh, is fair data still, considered a thing? Should we not bother about that anymore?" And I'd say, if you look at the principles, of course it's relevant. I mean, data still needs to be findable, addressable, interoperable. The same as your data product characteristics, but someone thought, okay, we'll just add a few more characteristics on the end of it. Yeah. So
I think it probably. This one may end up being we'll see. We might have fit another one in as well, but it's linked to that evolution of how things have changed, and it's that centralized versus decentralized. And I think I see this as we keep getting it a little bit wrong. So we go, we keep holding it all back, and we let everyone else go, oh no, we've given too much. We need to bring it back, and it's like a pendulum that we haven't quite set where it is yet. How? I suppose so. The question I'll probably ask is, how would you control the gradual decentralization in the right way, or how do you bring it back if you go too far?
Okay, so the answer is governance at the end of the day. That's how you can control it. Yeah. Whether it's, computational governance or whether it's traditional, ivory tower governance or whatever, governance, baked in governance right from the onset will control how much federation and how many guardrails that you want to give them, right? So let me tell you at Roche, right, and this is not, I think we've presented this a few times when I was at Roche, is we went absolutely far too much, governance, federated governance. Basically, data teams could design, their own modalities, their own architecture patterns, their own control policies, everything that was on them. Right, we would provide the stack, the tech.
That's your problem.
yeah, exactly. I mean, we would provide some guidelines and best practices and stuff like that. But they essentially were free to use the technology stack how they wished. Basically because we were a very small team, and as you know, Roche is a huge company, and we had thousands of teams essentially. Yeah, and then we did some analysis after a year, I think, of starting this, and everything was great. The amount of data products were flying out the shop. Everyone was really happy. The amount of users was thousands. Everyone was really ecstatic that they could, get data so quickly, could find it so quickly, could access it so quickly. But then data quality started to suffer, right? After a year. And this was because of the lack of governance, right? And that started to dip. So it was like, whoa, everybody's fantastic. And then the satisfaction rate became, a little bit plateaued and started going down the way. And this was purely because we had federated far too much. So we started then bringing, centralized policies back to for example, that data product teams were not allowed, to create their own access control policies, and they had a minimum data quality policies that they had to bring in through our centralized data quality framework, this and that, we introduced architects to every team to make sure they were all, abiding by the data modeling rules and whatever. Yeah. So they were extreme measures that we, brought in, but it did balance things out a little bit more. And then once you have that, automated in a computational way, you can start to release them back as well, so that you have those baked in and they don't feel like they're being governed, essentially. So I think the answer to your question is computational governance, baked in computational governance to the data product builds. I think absolutely is the key here, and this will give you your happy medium. This will get your dial at the right place. Yeah.
I think you're right, and I don't know if you saw a couple of weeks ago, we had Juan and Tim Casper from data.world, and
you have Tim, yeah.
How do we make data governance cool? And I'm not saying we made it or solved it at the end, but I think we made it a little bit better. we made it a little bit cooler, but I think the view was we need to have this. Governance aren't the no police. Governance are your enablers to getting a product out. That's your path to release, your path to production, and and they will get in your way at some point if you don't engage with them. So it's better to engage with them sooner rather than later, and take them on the journey with them. Make them part of the success criteria, and they own that problem with you. You're gonna succeed. And I think I've seen it both ways as well. We've seen our clients is we did the best documentation with the best examples, with the best patterns in the world. You put them out without the appropriate guardrails and governance and validation, people go and do what they want anyway. And then later on, you've got this big activity to do really secure something. And then, you haven't followed these patterns we have before, which meant that we can't automate this now. Everyone's got to do it themselves again. Right. The cost of the autonomy we gave to everybody has now cost you a X amount in refactoring that had to be done because you didn't follow an approach that we could, a metadata driven approach to resolve. So, it's working out whatever guardrails you can put in to prevent stupid things happening. If you can get that in up front before letting it out into the wild, there's always a pressure to get give these out there to the team building stuff. And I think just by having a little bit more, maybe an extra sprint or something, can really pay in the long run. Would be my advice. But no one ever listens to me when I say that, but I still keep saying that.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no harm in providing a service that they have to request for some things instead of making it pure self-service right at the start, which no one will ever do in a data platform. It'll be a journey to get there. Yeah, requesting things is fine.
Yeah, it's about that friction thing as well. It's like, and I've done this before. I've grouped things as part of the platform. Is right, your IP whitelisting, your network stuff doesn't change very often. Right? You got opposite end of the spectrum. Your metadata for your semantic layer for your reports, very often. Focus on the things that you have to change very often. The rest of it, you can have it as just some daily process, weekly process, because it's not. They should plan ahead for these things. They should know that. Whereas other stuff, put the things in there where they get the best value from it. And I think, unfortunately, as engineers and architects, we like to design everything all nice and best practice, and we usually need to focus on what's the juice worth a squeeze, which I saw a phrase I like to say, and I saw that Dan Tooney used it earlier. Is a juice worth a squeeze? I think that's a question we need to ask ourselves when building anything. Yeah, is the juice we're going to get from this worth the squeeze from your lemon? So look, we are. A thought I just had with the amount of comments on there. What I may think of doing is maybe we should have a Discord drop-in data product therapy session one time. Maybe I look to arrange that, because there's been a lot of people on there with some great comments, and we weren't able to address them all. Whereas maybe on a Discord therapy like
absolutely.
Joe does, might
and you can fly us all out to New York, and we can do it over a beer.
Look, I love that last one. Not all data is created equally. Yeah, I feel like not all joins are equal as well. But that's another you know. Cool. If for the audience that want to catch up with you, find out more about what you're up to, or
Absolutely. I mean, that's just ping me on LinkedIn. At the moment, I have some capacity spare if anybody wants to engage. So just let me know. Happy to support in any way I can.
Yeah, sorry. I just saw John an AI summarized in a newsletter. No, because I'll make sure I'll put some. You'll see, I think it's handwritten by me, or it'll be a spelling mistake. That's my footprint now. Everyone that's tuned in today, thank you for all your questions. Looks like some great side discussions that you've been sorting things out on your own without the need for me and Paul. But Paul, it was a pleasure having you on here. As I said before, I always enjoy our chats, and we do. We had a lot more in Paul's bullet list of things to talk about than we were able to fit in. But I hope we did it justice. Anyway, everybody.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go on a show next week. I'm not that organised. Paul might know. Paul, the marketing guy, my Paul Smith may know, but I don't know. So I hope to see everyone next week. Thanks again, Paul. Thanks to the audience.
Thanks, guys.